It finally seems that the 2-year catastrophe at AFL headquarters is finally coming to an end. The pinnacle was seen early this season with a raft of incidents not dealt with properly, which led to mass pressure for change in league office from the media and football public. Now, some of this was directed at CEO Andrew Dillon, not specifically on his own actions or comments, but the tough decisions he had not yet made and his lack of action to get the team around him solid and stable. But the last few weeks have seen him take that step and try to get the relationship between the clubs and AFL back to a strong point. It's taken a fair bit of time, but with changes coming in, it should impact the competition for the better. Two of these changes have been the inclusion of Greg Swann and Tom Harley. After 25 years working in AFL clubs, and most recently being a key member of Brisbane's turnaround, Swann will essentially take up the General Manager of Football role, formerly held by Laura Kane, who we will touch on a bit later on. Swann has all the experience and knowledge needed, and critically understands the challenges that face all of the AFL clubs. He isn't a lawyer or businessman, but a football person, and for that GM role, that is very important. But an even bigger coup might have been Tom Harley. He will stay at the Sydney Swans as CEO until season's end, before moving officially to become second in command as the AFL's Chief Operating Officer. Again, a lot of the things said about Swann can be applied to Harley, who has been a key part of success everywhere he has been, from being a player to an executive. Peter Ryan's article in The Age featured some quotes from 6 senior executives and board members from various clubs. It's important they have the respect of the football world because so many calls made are 50-50, one board member said. They are able to pick up the phone to most people in footy and talk through issues. Sometimes a reminder is all that is needed when it comes to behaviour, one senior club executive said. They bring authority to the role. Their connections with the AFL clubs and the people in them will be a key difference when compared to the previous people in their roles. It seems like the focus has been moved away from TV ratings and attendances that the AFL point at when questioned, and now back on clubland and resolving a mountain of concerns, from the soft cap, which is looking like it will be upped, the illicit drugs policy, match review officer table and umpiring issues, to name just some of the key areas the two men will have to deal with. Knowledge of footy is really about what happens in the game and what matters to clubs and what matters to fans. They have that, a club executive said. The executive already looks better on paper, and now it's time for them to perform. Something else that will be making a return is the AFL Competition Committee. It was last seen in 2022, but is set to make a formalised comeback next season. Now, the makeup of it is yet to be known, but it will include Laura Kane, Greg Swann, and AFL Commissioner Andrew Ireland. It's likely to feature some of the AFL coaches, a few players, most likely club captains, and GM and presidents of clubs. It is designed to get a whole range of different people in the football world together and simply discuss the game. The committee is utilised to make assessments, canvass views, test theories, and provide comments and recommendations regarding the AFL competition to the AFL Commission, the independent body charged with the ultimate decision-making responsibility for all elements of Australian football. It's good that the committee is returning and can only help in communication and idea gathering from all parties about the way the AFL and football as a whole is travelling. But as much as people have blamed Dillon and Kane for the recent events, it's not entirely their fault. Dillon was left with a vacuum of holes after former CEO Gillan McLachlan left. Travis Auld was Chief Financial Officer, and he departed in late 2023 to become the CEO of the Australian Grand Prix. Brad Scott left in late 2022 to become Senior Coach of Essendon after filling the important role of GM of Football, and Kylie Rogers announced her departure as Executive General Manager of Customer and Commercial in June this year to join Victoria's Racing Club. There has been steady change in and around the head office for a while, and mistakes were made in filling these voids. Clearly Kane was out of her depth, in her early 30s with a law background and just over 4 years in executive roles at North Melbourne to replace Scott in that critical general manager role. Hindsight is a wonderful thing, but her simple lack of experience was telling all throughout her time in the position, and communication with the clubs was a big issue, and we saw that this year. Clearly Dylan and others do see potential in her, and it's why she's still in a GM role of some capacity, but with less responsibilities and more focus on the AFLW and mental health space. So it's not entirely fair to blame Dylan for the issues over the past couple years. Yes, he was an in-house hire, but we can all see why with the key departures that happened either side of McLaughlin departing. But for now, it does look like things are back on track. It also looks like Dylan is going down the track of a more personal relationship, at least with some of the players. It did raise eyebrows in early June when the CEO had a meeting with Geelong superstar Bailey Smith in his home. Now, jokes and tongue-in-cheek comments were made about the meeting being fireside and intimate, but it no doubt was unique. Chris Scott, Geelong CEO Steve Hocking, and their football boss Andrew Mackey were also present. It came after Smith replied to an online comment and jokingly mentioned drug use. Now, Smith did not get any punishment for the comment, but the meeting did show how influential he is in the football world, and it was enough to get the competition CEO to drive to his own house alongside all those other Geelong officials. It's rare to hear something like this in the sport world, and it was a far different approach from Dylan than the conventional fine or easy statement to condemn the words Smith typed. And the final important call that Dylan and his team made was to do with the grand final, not the pre-game entertainment, which is still up in the air, but with the start time. Once again, it is a 2:30 opening bounce. Dylan described himself early on as a traditionalist, and he has kept his word so far with the grand final start times. But it is an interesting decision, and every year more and more noise comes from the Seven Network about shifting the game to an afternoon or night start time. It would no doubt get more viewers, and the entertainment element might be more spectacular in the darkened sky. But despite the pressure from the key free-to-air network, Dylan doesn't look to be budging anytime soon. It's also curious, we do have to wait until the halfway mark of the season to actually get a decision on the most important fixture of the year. I guess that in itself shows there are at least some discussions about an afternoon or night grand final that might be coming very soon.